we recognize that CVUUS gathers on the land of the Western Abenaki people. We respect their spiritual relationship to the land. We hope to learn from them how we can live together in peace and justice. I'm going to go. People are still coming in, but I think I'm going to go. Good morning, all, and welcome on this frigid Vermont morning to CVUUS, the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society. Boy, I wish we could be together in person. Like most of you, I suppose, I am very tired of this pandemic and its necessary isolation. But I am extremely grateful for this community and glad we can be together, even though it be virtually. My name is Becky Strum. I'm a member of this congregation, and this morning I'll be serving as worship associate for the Reverend Barnaby Feeder, our settled minister. If you are joining us today for the first time, please go to our website, send us an email at office@cvuus.org so we can send you a copy of our weekly email blast. And in that blast, you'll learn each week about the many pathways for and opportunities to connect outside of the Sunday service. I'm just going to mention a couple of things for the coming week. First of all, Dr. Francois Clemens will host a Zoom-only Martin Luther King Day time of sharing from his home tomorrow, Monday, January 17th at 3 p.m. Contact Francois or Steve Butterfield for the link. People are invited to share music, readings, or memories inspired by this holiday. You can also go to the website or look in the blast and find out the details for joining the group that is reading and discussing Isabel Wilkerson's cast. Many thanks today to our choir and to Francois Clemens for singing, and to Richard Hopkins, Abby Sessions, and Rich Wolfson for technical support. So I have chosen a call to worship by one of my favorite people, Paulie Murray, Dark Testament, verse 8. Hope is a crushed stalk between clenched fingers. Hope, I think you want to see me. I'm going to start again because I was not on camera. Hope is a crushed stalk between clenched fingers. Hope is a bird's wing broken by a stone. Hope is a word in a tuneless ditty, a word whispered on the wind. A dream of 40 acres and a mule, a cabin of one's own and a moment to rest, a name and a place for one's children and children's children at last. Hope is a song in a weary throat. Give me a song of hope and a world where I can sing it. Give me a song of faith and a people to believe in it. Give me a song of kindness and a country where I can live it. Give me a song of hope and love and a brown girl's heart to hear it. So next it's going to be time for our chalice lighting. I have a small chalice here, and I'm not even sure if I'm on camera, but I'm going to light that chalice. And then after the chalice is a symbol of Unitarian Universalism. And after I light the chalice, if you join me reading the words on your screen, but let me light the chalice first, and I hope you can see it. Okay. We light this chalice, symbol of our faith, alive in this world, naming our vision of collective liberation and daring to remember each other into beloved community.
Good morning, everybody. We're going to share a piece of music that the choir got together in the middle of the week and recorded for you all today. This is one you'll probably be familiar with, number 131, Love Will Guide Us. I'm going to plop the lyrics in the chat while the video plays in case you want to sing along. And in case you're wondering who to thank for the wonderful panning video, Kate Gridley shot these for us, and they just look fantastic. You get to see every single choir member. So, hope you enjoy it.
Yay! I like the way that was filmed, whoever did it. It was cool having the camera kind of move around and not just, not just the videos of like the high school choir concerts. I don't know how many of you ever had to sit through watching those terrible videos, like the one camera way in the back, you can barely hear it. So brutal. Anyway, good morning, my beloved people. I'm thrilled to see you. I think it's probably not a good sign that it's January 16th and I'm already like done with winter. That seems not so helpful. But being with you actually really helps give me more energy. So thank you for coming. This morning for the Time for All Ages, we are going to do a short meditation practice. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a very powerful voice for compassion and many other things. He believed strongly that we all had a moral responsibility to act, to speak out, to stand up for people. He believed in the power of nonviolence, and not just physical nonviolence, but emotional nonviolence. So that brought to mind for me a practice that I've used for all kinds of things, but one of the things I think it can be useful for is when you have a person that you're struggling with. Maybe it's somebody you actually know in your life, or maybe it's a politician or somebody at work, but it's somebody, a relative, somebody that for some reason you are having really strong, hard feelings with. It's good for many other things too, but this is one of the ones that I thought of when I thought of Dr. Martin Luther King. Because we don't have to like everybody, we don't have to get along with everybody, but we have a responsibility to treat people with care, right? Our first Unitarian Universalist principle says we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. So every person is important, which includes the person we're fighting with, which includes ourselves. So the meditation we're going to do is a loving kindness meditation. And it's a practice that's about directing positive thoughts and words and wishes to ourselves and to others. And it goes through a few different categories of people, including people we love and including people that we are struggling with. So I think it's a really good one for building compassion for ourselves also. So just looking at my little list. Hold on a second. There we go. So some of you may have done some version of this, and there's a lot of different words that are used. And I'll say a little bit about that at the end. So I'm maybe going to do words that aren't what you're used to, and I encourage you to just run with it. Or if you have ones that you've actually used yourselves that really feel right, you can change them and ignore the ones that I give you. So I am just going to pull up my screen, hopefully. Okay, so these are the words I'm going to use, and they're going to repeat. So let's just go through them for a second as a group. You can say them out loud because I can't hear you. May I be at peace. May I be well. May I be hopeful. May I be healed. And the first time we go through it, we'll say I, because we're going to direct it to ourselves. And then you'll hear me shift and say, now you're going to direct it to someone like this or someone like this, and it will switch to may they be at peace, or may she be at peace, or may you be at peace if you want to be saying it, really imagining that person. And the last thing I'll say, and then we'll just jump into it, is when I do this, sometimes I even have a little card in front of me that I'm reading the words, so I don't have to think about it. And I say the words inside my head silently, but you could say them out loud or whatever works for you. So sit comfortably. You can close your eyes and just listen and follow along and just repeat I'll be saying the words out loud the entire time. So you can just repeat them after me in your head, or you can read them, whatever works for you. Okay, I guess that's all I want to say. So we're going to start by directing these words to ourselves. May I be at peace. May I be well. May I be hopeful. May I be healed. And now think of someone that you feel strong love toward, or you feel thankful for, or you care about, but someone that you have strong, good feelings toward, that it's easy to feel that way toward them. So imagine the person. You really want to pick a person. Okay. And I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say she. May she be at peace. May she be well. May she be hopeful. May she be healed. And now think of someone that is still pretty easy for you to feel good feelings about, who you feel, who's struggling in some way. And you can send these wishes to that person. May they be at peace. May they be well. May they be hopeful. May they be healed. And now this next one is a little funny. Pick someone who you have kind of neutral feelings about. You might not even know them. This is just a practice of sending out wishes to someone that you don't know well. But again, pick an actual person. So someone at the grocery store, someone from CVUUS. It's taking me a moment because I got to think of a person. Okay. May he be at peace. May he be well. May he be hopeful. May he be healed. And now direct the thoughts to someone that you are struggling with, either in your actual day-to-day life, or you haven't seen them in years, or often for me, it is someone who's has power in the government. So pick an actual person. Here we go. May he be at peace. May he be well. May he be hopeful. May he be healed. We're going to do two last ones. Let's do the whole group who's here. So you can open your eyes and look at everybody, or you can keep your eyes closed and just imagine, just kind of hold the whole group this morning in your heart. You can say we or they. I'm going to say we to include myself. May we be at peace. May we be well. May we be hopeful. May we be healed. And the last one goes out to all beings, people and others. And so we'll say, may all beings be at peace. So last one, imagine the world. May all beings be at peace. May all beings be well. May all beings be hopeful. May all beings be healed. This practice, I said, has many versions, and some people have words that they use every time. They never change them. That's just how it works, because you'll memorize the words, right? And then you don't have to read them or think of it. All you're doing is thinking of, I'm sending this to myself. I'm sending this to my daughter. I'm sending this to the male person. I'm sending this to the, whatever, right? All you have to do then is picture the people, because the words are there. Something that I like to do is actually shift the words for what I need that day, because you're starting with yourself, right? And chances are, if you're needing something, somebody out there is also needing it. So when I was thinking of the words to do this morning, I don't usually say hopeful. That's not one of the standard ones. It might be healthy or safe or free, but lately I've been struggling with feeling hopeful about things sometimes. So hopeful was a word that I stuck in there. You could say, may my heart remain open. May I know that I am enough. May she know that she's enough. May we all know that we are enough, right? Whatever fits. If you had to pick a word right now that is the thing you'd like to say to yourself, or you'd like someone to say to you, what would the word be that you would use? What are the words that you're wanting? You can type them in the chat if you want to, or just say them out loud, or just think them. May I be free from fear. May I feel connected. May you be filled with loving kindness. Right. May you be present. I'm reading them. May you be resilient. May you be calm. May you be helpful. May you be joyful. May you be playful. May you be receptive. May you be loved. Wow, these are so great. So, this is what I offer to you. And it's a really short one that once you learn it, you can do it anywhere, right? You could be in a conversation with someone and right in that moment, take a breath and just drop into this and do this for yourself or do this for that person. I'm just going to close by saying Becky mentioned struggling with the isolation of the pandemic, which for me has just been incredibly brutal. And I'm living with my kids and my husband. So this is a great practice for that, because what you're doing is taking yourself through feeling the connection with all these people, right? You're imagining all these people and you are sending something to them. So you're creating that connection, which they'll feel or not. You might never know. And especially when you're feeling powerless about people in your life who are struggling, loving kindness meditation is a great thing to do for that person. You can feel like you're doing something for them, even if it feels very small. So, my dear ones, I leave you with this love and kindness meditation or practice to help you build compassion for yourselves so that you are able to go out into the world in whatever way you do and help be yourself and build it up and make things better, and compassion for others so that you can help us be better at connecting and shifting our beliefs about some things. So I wish you love, and I'm not sure what's next, but I'm guessing it's the offering.
Thank you, Poppy. Yes, for that wonderful invitation to be connected with however we go out into the world, and the offering of this way to do it, because it leads right into another way we have for people to go out into the world. Something we do as a congregation every month with a lot of intention, going into thinking about what it's going to be in advance. And this month we are sharing our offering with the branch of UNICEF known as COVAX, which deals with international vaccine sharing plans in order to try and get COVID vaccines out to the vast regions of the world that are very underserved, that aren't as wealthy as our nation, where resistance to taking vaccines isn't the issue. It's not even having access to them for most people. As of the end of December 30th, COVAX had given out 910 million doses to 144 countries, and it's still far short of what its goal was of 2 billion doses for last year. So if you're as generous as you're able, we'll be able to contribute to catching up to that goal this year and delivering hope to a lot of people who don't have it in connection with protecting themselves from COVID. Mute myself. Thank you, Ronnie. This is our time for milestones and passages.
Sorry, this is Francois now.
Oh, Francois. I will remute.
precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired. I am weak. I am worn. Hear my cry, Lord. Hear my call. Lead me home, lest I fall. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me home. Yeah, when my way grows drear, precious Lord, linger near. When my life is almost gone, hear my cry, yeah, hear my call, lead me home, lest I fall. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead your child on home. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Well. Hallelujah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hear my cry, Lord. Hear my call, precious Lord. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead your child on home.
So Francois, thank you so much for once again blessing us with Dr. King's favorite song on this weekend when we have a national holiday marking his birth. And it's especially appropriate, I guess, this weekend, this idea of homecoming, because there's a common theme running through several of the milestones that I've received. The first one to come in this week actually was from Jess Danielle, and it was hearkening back to the testimonial she gave about the steer that stood in the field for so long in Salisbury she drove by that had died. And in that testimonial, she wondered how the partner of that steer that had been there year after year, another steer named Shy, would fare. And Jess said that she had just received a donation homeward bound in memory of Shy. Shy died recently, and the caretakers believe it was a broken heart, having lost his partner. Of course, there's no way for us to know that, and there's absolutely no reason for us to doubt that. So we owe Jess and all of those people whose lives were so tied up with seeing this bond year after year as they drove along Route 7. We hold all these people in our prayers. On the human front, I got a note from Rich Wilson, and he asked us to remember Hal Schaefer, who died December 22nd in Venice, Florida at the age of 86. Rich says that Hal and his wife Donna were vigorous members of CVUUS in the 1990s, especially at the time we bought and fixed up our first building, then at the corner of Cross and Water Streets. Many longtime members of the congregation will remember Hal and Donna for their enthusiasm and active involvement, Rich said. And having been one of the founders, I'm sure Rich knows. For all of us who never had the pleasure of knowing the Schaefers, thank you very much for bringing Hal's passing to our attention. And we are indebted to all of our ancestors, even in this young congregation. And it's good that we can mark their passing. This week also brought the death, very widely publicized, of Willem Jewett. And I got this note from Steve Meyer. Willem was a good friend. He and I were elected to the state legislature the same year, 2002. He served for 14 years and was succeeded by Peter Conlon, a member of CVUUS. Willem represented Ripton, his hometown, Cornwall, Salisbury, Leicester, Goshen, and Hancock. Now, Willem hastened his death using Vermont's Death with Dignity law, which he helped write, and which so many people in this congregation, led by Marnie Wood, played a big role in getting passed. In his final days, Steve says, Willem was advocating for improvements to the law that he found as he went through the process himself, and he found some of the requirements to be unnecessarily restrictive. So maybe Marnie will be able to tell us more about that, and there'll be round two of advocacy for us in improving the law in memory of Willem. I'll also add that I got to know Willem because he was the attorney involved in the transfer of the lot that our sanctuary is on, all before my time. And when we had some questions just 2 years ago about where our boundaries were, I went to see him, and he remained a real friend of the congregation. Steve concluded by saying he was greatly respected both as a legislative leader, he was the House Majority Leader for a while, as a father, husband, and friend. And Steve said he was able to participate in a Zoom gathering this week with many former colleagues, including his wife, Ella McKay Jewett, and daughters, Annika and Abby. There were many wonderful stories and many tears. Ellen shared some of the details of this last hour, a very touching story of love, sadness, happiness, appreciation, and many other emotions. It was a wonderful testament to being in control of how it goes at the end of one's life. Thank you so much, Steve, for sharing that with us about Willem's passing. There are always unspoken joys and concerns, and many of them are more joyful. After reading all these death notices, I confess I went to Ware's Web just to comfort myself. The Space Telescope is just about 90% of its way. to its destination. And next week, maybe we'll be able to celebrate its final deployment. But meanwhile, I invite everybody into a time of finding out where your heart is today, what mixture of joy and grief you bring with us to our worship.
Okay. And up next, we have another offering from the choir. All right, everyone. That was number 304 from the hymn book, A Fierce Unrest. And these words are so interesting, I just can't resist reading them to you. I know it's a little tricky to understand with the masks on. So here's the text. A fierce unrest seethes at the core of all existing things. It was the eager wish to soar that gave the gods their wings. There throbs through all the worlds that are this heartbeat hot and strong, and shaken systems, star by star, awake and glow in song. But for the urge of this unrest, these joyous spheres are mute. But for the rebel in our breast had we remained as brutes. When baffled lips demanded speech, speech trembled into birth. One day the lyric word shall reach from earth to laughing earth. From deed to dream, from dream to deed, from daring hope to hope. The restless wish, the instant need, still drove us up the slope. Sing we no governed firmament, cold ordered regular. We sing the stinging discontent that leaps from star to star.
I never know if I am on camera or not. I am. Okay. Our first reading today is excerpted from a 1991 poem called Note to Myself by Lucille Clifton. It comes with 2 epigraphs. And you can think of the poem as a sermon and the epigraphs as readings that introduce it. The first reading was displayed on a t-shirt. It's a black thing you wouldn't understand. The second reading quotes the poet Amiri Baraka. I refuse to be judged by white men. The poem begins as a continuation of Baraka's statement. Note to Myself by Lucille Clifton. It's a black thing you wouldn't understand. I refuse to be judged by white men or defined, and I see that even the best believe they have that right, believe that what they say I mean is what I mean, as if my story is so trivial we can forget together, as if I am not scarred, as if my family enemy does not look like them, as if I have not reached across our history to touch, to soothe on more than one occasion, and will again, although the merely human is denied me still. Our second reading is an excerpt from Dr. Martin Luther King's 1963 letter from a Birmingham jail. The now famous letter was a response to 8 white Birmingham clergy leaders who professed sympathy with those protesting racial segregation, but had opposed the tactics that led to King's arrest as unwise and untimely. King writes, I must confess that over the last few years, I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in the stride toward freedom is not the Ku Klux Klanner, but the white moderate, who is most devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I can't agree with your methods of direct action, who constantly advises the Negro to wait until a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection.
Thank you, Becky, for those great readings of those 2 very different pieces. I got a bemused call last year from my son, Alfie, who works in Washington for Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey. Hey, Dad, did you know you were featured in a Wikipedia article as one of the first reporters to publicize the word slacktivism? Well, I looked it up. The article Wikipedia cites was published nearly 20 years ago, deep inside the New York Times business section with the headline, "They weren't careful what they wished for." It talked about teachers who created school projects where their classes sent an email message asking anyone who received it to email the class, care of the teacher, about where they were. Typically, the teacher would put pins in a world map to show this class how connected the world had become thanks to computers as the email messages poured in. And it talked about, in the article, how teachers were repeatedly stunned to find out that their inboxes were quickly flooded with thousands or tens of thousands of emails. In some cases, efforts to shut down the project led to floods of new emails to the school's principal, warning that the link was down. In the article, I quoted Barbara Mickelson, a computer programmer who, with her husband, ran a well-known website that tracked internet frauds, urban legends, a lot of what we today call fake news, and cyber disasters. Mrs. Mickelson said that the overwhelmed teachers had underestimated the pleasure people got out of doing something that feels like a public service, yet requires no more than a few keystrokes. It's all fed by slacktivism, she said, the desire people have to do something good without getting out of their chair. This came back to me as I began planning our annual service preceding tomorrow's Martin Luther King Day holiday. I recalled another time I used that word preaching to you. In fact, it was in January 2020, not long before we were stopped by the pandemic from meeting together in our sanctuary. Esther Thomas was my worship associate that day. And Esther's part was constructed mostly from Dr. King's writings, the testimony of those who knew him, and a speech he gave to the UU General Assembly in 1966 as she spoke in Dr. King's voice. Do you remember that, Esther?
Yes, especially the part where he said, "The great tragedy of my lifetime, despite the positive social changes, was not the strident clamor of the bad people, but the appalling silence of the good people."
Yes, I responded. We have technology now called social media that makes silence a lot rarer. Sadly, though, it doesn't necessarily make what good people say more influential. Too often, they are only talking from their homes to people they agree with and mistaking that conversation for serious anti-racism work. There's a new word for it, slacktivism. And then I continued, I'd like to talk to you about that, but first, let me say, I find it fascinating that you were speaking to us in the form of a young African-American woman raising two small children on her own. And that set you up to respond,
"The Lord moves in even more mysterious ways once you are dead. I'm sure there are ways you can imagine where my current appearance is entirely fitting."
Thanks, Esther, for bringing those words from 2 years ago back to me. I do want to get back to slacktivism, but before you sign off, I just want to interject how great we all feel that you now have Jesse, who's there with you on screen, as a partner in your life and a support in raising Brielle and Lawrence. Slacktivism is on my mind this year because in the run-up to this weekend, members of Dr. King's family announced plans to stage marches and other forceful lobbying efforts to pressure the United States Senate to pass a new law protecting voting rights. Andrea Waters King, wife of Dr. King's son, Martin Luther King III, told CNN voting rights were the cornerstone of Dr. King's legacy. She and her husband said that the family would celebrate the holiday by working actively for the legislation. There is no better way to observe the King holiday, she and other family members said. So where does that leave an overwhelmingly white congregation here in Vermont, a state whose 3 delegates to Congress already support the legislation? No need for lobbying there. Moreover, the combination of a totally unified Republican opposition, along with the unwillingness of 2 Democratic senators to modify the rules for bringing issues to a vote, has eliminated all chances of attaining what the kings seek for now. So what real work do we have to do here this weekend that doesn't smack of slacktivism? How do we honor the spirit of the King family's expressed wishes for this year? I don't think we are condemned to despair, even though, as our call to worship by Paulie Murray stated in the first line of the last part of the verse, hope is a song in a weary throat. Despite the terrible sense of loss weighing on us in the current pandemic surge, a growing number of us are at a vibrant point in our own effort to dismantle racism. We have a long way to go, but I believe we are getting closer to understanding what Dr. King was trying to say about how racism and other sources of injustice weigh on us. Now, we have to be careful about this, as Lucille Clifton warned in Note to Myself. She wrote, I see that even the best believe they have the right, believe that what they say I mean is what I mean, as if my story is so trivial we can forget together, as if I am not scarred, as if my family enemy does not look like them. Still, there's a very interesting backstory to that poem. A white professor at the college where Clifton taught suspected that the poet was thinking of her with that line, even the best of them, as they were friends. And she had the guts to ask. Clifton said, yes, I was thinking of you. At first, the professor was hurt at the naming of what felt like a harmful and unbridgeable gap. Then she came to think that someone saying you only get a B+ isn't so bad if that's the highest grade. And she appreciated Clifton's honesty. She knew it was a way forward to real discussion and dialogue. That could be us. We are chipping away at King's greatest frustration with white people, shallow understanding of people with goodwill. We have reason to hope we are becoming equipped to do the very hard work of becoming a truly welcoming congregation across racial, social, and economic boundaries. Fewer and fewer of us are resting in the comfortable fiction that our sincere good intentions are all that we are required to bring to the table. Before I go further, I want to acknowledge that some of you are dealing with personal suffering or are too restricted in other ways to actively participate in much of the work we're doing at the moment to dismantle racism. No matter what, you too are vital to this congregation. We are a home for justice seekers, but we are also caregivers, beauty makers, parents of the next generation, keepers of our institutional memories, financial sustainers, and so much more. Perhaps you will skip the conversation on racism after worship, or come to it thinking that you can be no more than an observer. But all I ask of you is don't be so sure. Enough is changing that you may be surprised about where you might fit in. To me, a big step forward has been getting better at seeing past what has been called the great man theory of history, the idea that the most enlightening way to tell our history is through the life stories of people recognized as famous leaders like Dr. King. Alongside that type of truth, we are more open to a messier landscape that tells another truth. Let's return to Paulie Murray's words in our call to worship. Hope is a song in a weary throat. Give me a song of hope and a world where I can sing it. Give me a song of faith and a people to believe in it. Give me a song of kindliness and a country where I can live it. Give me a song of hope and love and a brown girl's heart to hear it. These are not exactly the ringing words of King's I Have a Dream speech, where he talked about what he already had and what he wanted to be given to the nation, or his I have been to the mountaintop speech on the eve of his assassination. But I find that Murray's words get even deeper into what we need spiritually because it is much more intimate than King's address to the crowds. It talks from a place of what we personally need. And it's less tactical than King's letter from a Birmingham jail, which was in fact finished and polished after he was released. And that letter was intended to be published and distributed nationally. In fact, the 8 ministers to whom it was supposedly addressed were reportedly never sent a copy of it by King or his associates. I want to complicate the idea that King is the face of civil rights by telling you more about Paulie Murray, who was largely unknown to most of us until a wave of publicity last year with the release of a documentary on her life. Anne Paulie Murray was born in Baltimore in 1910, the 4th of 6 children. Her mother died suddenly of a brain hemorrhage when Anne was 3. Her father, a college graduate and school principal, sent the children to live with relatives in North Carolina and then quickly spiraled downward into mental illness. He was beaten to death by a white guard in the basement of the Crownsville State Hospital for the Negro Insane when Anne was 12. By then, fortunately, Anne was being raised in an atmosphere of unconditional love by her mother's sister, Pauline Fitzgerald, a teacher in Durham, North Carolina. Pauline began taking her to work at the age of 4 rather than leave her with a babysitter. Sitting there, the motherless child taught herself to read within a year. It wasn't long before several things became apparent. She was extremely bright, extremely energetic, athletic, and not comfortable with being a girl. She refused to wear girls' clothes. Auntie Pauline wasn't fazed. Anne became Paulie. Auntie Pauline called her boy girl. Pauline laid down only one gender-based restriction. Paulie had to wear girls' clothes to church on Sunday. The rest of the week, she was free to dress as she wanted. From an early age, Paulie refused to be pigeonholed by race, sexuality, gender, or anything else. She led a much more marginal life than King did as a result. And by the way, I'm using the pronoun she because that is what Paulie preferred to use in public. She often used he in private, according to her posthumously published biography. She even endured years of fruitless attempts to get testosterone hormone therapy, as well as surgery in a vain attempt to find evidence of internal testicles. Paulie was a college student in 1940, the first time she was arrested in Virginia for refusing to move to the back of a segregated bus, long before the protests in Birmingham. That incident sparked her interest in civil rights law. As a pioneering female law student at the historically Black college, Howard University, she rose to the top of her class and put an end to the practice of professors not calling on her. She wrote a ridiculed paper that 10 years later, without her getting public credit, became a basis for the argument made by the NAACP team led by Thurgood Marshall for the successful case in which the Supreme Court outlawed school segregation. She also organized in college student sit-ins that ended segregation at various Washington restaurants, and she supported efforts challenging segregated seating long before the campaign in Birmingham, for which Dr. King became famous. She coined the term Jane Crow laws to draw attention to even greater injustices Black women faced than Black men because they were oppressed both by racism and sexism. Later, her legal theories were used by a young lawyer named Ruth Bader Ginsburg to win a groundbreaking argument in an Alabama case, establishing that the Constitution also barred discrimination on the basis of sex, and by ACLU lawyers who secured protections against discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation. Paulie was co-founder of the National Organization of Women, with whom she later had a falling out because she felt it was too focused on feminism from the perspective of white women. She used to joke toward the end of her life that she was fortunate to live long enough for many of her lost causes to be found, because the victories never came while she was in charge. It was such a punishing balancing effort between her crusading and preserving her identity that she was frequently hospitalized for depression. And she was kept far from the civil rights limelight by Dr. King and other male leaders of the movement. In the last chapter of her life, Paulie quit lawyering to become the first ordained Black Episcopal priest. I should say the first ordained Black female Episcopal priest. Given her identity she was excluded from any shot at becoming an active parish priest, but she did manage to get invited, to her great personal satisfaction, to conduct Holy Communion in the small North Carolina chapel where her grandmother, then enslaved, had been baptized. There is so much more to Paulie Murray's story, but maybe you can see the message. We have come a lot further and have a lot further to travel in looking at racism than we can see through the lens of Dr. King's life. Wait, there's more. I know quite a few of you have heard about Paulie Murray since the release of that documentary. As Becky said, she's a hero, and maybe even a hero from before that documentary. But how many of you have heard of Callie House? Born into slavery, she was a widowed mother of 5 with 5 children who made her living outside Nashville, Tennessee as a washerwoman in the 1890s, when she rose to momentary prominence as the leader of a movement seeking government pensions for ex-slaves. This pioneering reparations movement was crushed when she was sent to a federal prison in Missouri during World War I after being convicted by an all-white, all-male jury of false mail fraud charges. Her story, so buried in history that her grave is unmarked, is filled with cross currents that are relevant to reparations arguments today. And yet, only those who have read a book that was barely noticed, My Face is Black is True, published in 2005, know much about her. What I take away from this journey into the ancestry of justice work, and especially justice work centered on racism, is that more than any other American holiday, Martin Luther King's birthday weekend is for UUs a call to move beyond slacktivism, partly because that's what King's family is telling us, and partly because it is what King's life called us to long before there was a holiday. Beyond that, though, it's a call to work we are finally recognizing is beyond our comprehension. There is always more to learn about how we got here and how racism works in our society, even when we tear down legal boundaries. There is always more to learn about who is at the table, especially when that person does not share our identity in one or more important ways. It could be race, it could be gender, it could be economic status or physical abilities. There will always be too many people with diverse perspectives and needs for there to be one right answer. But what makes it look so daunting is also a blessing. In a world with messy needs and impossible to predict outcomes, we are liberated to work in good faith. We are going to stumble, but as Albert Einstein warned us in another context, we are only going to fail if we give up. It would be nice to get A's, but white people in particularly are only going to contribute to dismantling racism if they can handle getting lower grades without quitting. I want to close with a slacktivism confession. Francois sung Precious Lord for us beautifully, as he has done on several Martin Luther King weekends, to honor Dr. King with his favorite song. But after all this was arranged, I realized it was a form of slacktivism for me to accept Francois' gift and just to plug it into the program. Francois is here and Dr. King is not. I'm not going to feel guilty, but I'm going to apologize and try to go deeper into the future. I should have asked Francois while we were talking about all this. By the way, Francois, what's your favorite song? Let's talk more about that. You're here. We have a relationship. Our building on that relationship is the kind of work that goes beyond slacktivism and is going to help us get at least a B+. Blessed be, and amen.
Now the choir will sing us out with one more hymn. This is Let Freedom Span Both East and West, a really lovely harmonization of a lost African-American spiritual by Harry Burleigh, who was an amazing arranger, singer, performer, composer from the late 19th, early 20th century, who a lot of people argue is really the reason we even have spirituals on the concert stage today. So he's really important, did absolutely incredible arranging in his lifetime. And I just adore these harmonies, and I hope you do too.
Thank you to the choir. The choir's singing at all that far apart is really, really difficult. It's a testimony to how much we want to be together. In some ways, it'd be easier to record everybody separately and use electronics to create a more blended song. And yet the power of wanting to be in community is what we honor by doing it this way. I want to say in closing that we will have a different kind of coffee hour than normal. This is the third Sunday of the month, so there is a congregational conversation. Mike Greenwood and I will lead it. It's on dismantling racism and where we are as a congregation in our work on that. We invite everybody to attend. We know that some of you will actually just want to visit in a traditional coffee hour, so there will be a separate room for that. And we invite you to go to whichever room feels right for you today. And in closing, I say whatever room you go to, I hope you'll emerge out into the world this week, looking for chances to not only do the work, but to do the work creatively and just a little bit beyond in your effort, so that you know that you're not slipping back into slacktivism. It's better than nothing. Slacktivism is an effort to do good, but it's not up to what we want for ourselves as we go forward in this world. Blessed be.